Dive into who could have done this. What investigators are looking for is forensic and clinical psychologist Dr. John Delatorre. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Natasha.
And I know you've been tracking this case. Knowing what we know about the murder weapon, also some of the new details to come out this week, what kind of person are investigators likely dealing with here?
I mean, it really hinges on this word targeted. There's been a lot of conversation about this word and why the police used it. And it's really interesting because it seems as though at least three, right, the three women victims may have all shared something in common, something that they probably didn't even know that they shared in common. Most likely, this individual never told anyone, the perpetrator of this crime, never told anyone that they had murderous intent. But usually this is someone that at least was familiar to each of the four victims, right? There were two other victims inside the house that were left alone. Now, we don't know if the doors were locked or anything like that, but we have to assume that someone knew how to get into that house and knew where each of these four individuals were in the house in order to not disturb anything or not create a ruckus or a riot or anything like that while committing the offense.
Can you walk us through the resolve, the state of mind that the killer needed to have to carry out this crime?
It's not only the resolve, right? It's not only that, but it's also managing the adrenaline, right? Because you're going to be anxious and nervous when you're committing this crime, because I'm not entirely convinced he's done this before. And I say he because more than likely it is a him. Right. But it's unclear that he's done this before. So you got to manage your adrenaline. You got to manage, right, everything, right, the anxiety that's being provoked. Then you got to manage sort of the physical exertion. Right. You're committed to doing this thing, but stabbing individuals with a knife takes a lot out of you. And then you have to move quietly to the next room. There's a lot of resolve. This person wanted to do this, and it probably has been wanting to do this for a very long time.
Well, and some believe the killer is likely an incel or part of that community. Can you explain what that means and what the chances are that that is true?
I've heard that before. I don't think so, right? Incels, they tend to believe that they have no access to women, or that women sort of push them to the side. I'm not really seeing that. It's unlikely that an incel becomes this radicalized. And usually when they become radicalized to engage in behavior like this, it's a performance crime. It's theatrical, right? Elliot Rogers, right? ER is the common phrase that incels use online when they're going to do a crime where multiple people are going to die, pulling in ER. This doesn't ring of a performance. This rings of someone wanting to do this kind of crime, not because they believe that the entire women community has shut them out, but more that something else was going on, that a relationship had been spurned by the victims to this individual.
And we know forensic results are starting to come back. What could be the biggest clue in that? And certainly DNA evidence has to be what investigators are hoping to find.
Usually it's going to be the DNA evidence. And a lot of people say that, well, the perpetrator was using a knife, so more than likely he cut himself at some point. The problem is that if a knife was used, it's possible that the knife had a hilt, right? Where the person's hand might have slipped, but maybe not a cut. Right, gloves, it was freezing cold that night. So it's certainly possible that there is no DNA evidence, which is why this is going to take a long time. It's going to take detectives and investigators, right, knocking on doors, asking questions over and over and over again. This is not something that's going to be resolved quickly.
Appreciate your insight. John Delatorre, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on